While Germany and France stumble through stagnation, one European nation just posted growth numbers that defy gravity. Poland's GDP per capita rocketed from under 50% of the EU average to over 80% in just 2 decades. This isn't luck, it's a calculated 20-year strategy to flip the continent's power structure. What's the engine driving this economic surge that's leaving the old powers choking on dust? Forget everything you thought you knew about Eastern Europe. The Poland of today isn't the Poland you remember. In 1995, Polish GDP per capita sat at 44% of the EU average. Struggling, overlooked, dismissed by Western commentators as a permanent second-tier economy. Fast forward to 2025. That number hit 81%, the highest level in Polish history. While Britain debates its decline and France wrestles with riots, Poland quietly executed the most dramatic economic convergence the continent has ever seen. Here's what that actually means. Since joining the EU in 2004, Poland's cumulative GDP growth reached 130%, the best performance in the entire bloc. Not Germany, not the Netherlands, Poland. The old narrative said EU membership would hollow out Eastern economies, turning them into cheap labor pools for Western capital. That's not what happened. Poland absorbed EU funds, foreign investment, and market access, then weaponized all three. The structural transformation was surgical. In 2000, agriculture still employed a massive share of the workforce. Low productivity, low output. By 2023, services accounted for 57% of GDP. Industry, 30%. Agriculture, under 3%. This wasn't gradual drift. This was industrial policy executed with precision. But here's where it gets interesting. Poland didn't just modernize its own firms. It became the indispensable link in European supply chains. The country that Western Europe once pitied now produces components, vehicles, and electronics that Germany, France, and Italy cannot function without. The growth wasn't a fluke, it was architected. And while the old powers stagnate under their own weight, Poland's trajectory is still climbing. The European Commission forecasts 3.5% GDP growth for Poland in 2026. The EU average, barely half that. Poland isn't catching up anymore. It's pulling ahead. This isn't about assembling parts. It's about owning the entire production line. The OECD tracked Poland's export evolution from 2000 to 2022. In 2000, exports represented 27% of Polish GDP. By 2022, 63%. That's not incremental growth. That's an economic revolution. What drove it? Foreign direct investment, and a lot of it. Poland saw a 95% surge in FDI inflows from 2020 to 2021. After a 15% jump the year before. Global capital poured into Polish manufacturing, logistics, and tech infrastructure like water finding the path of least resistance. But here's the key. Foreign firms didn't just set up branch offices, they built production empires. American companies alone employed 327,000 people in Poland by 2022, representing 12% of total FDI. These weren't call centers. These were advanced manufacturing plants, R&D hubs, and export platforms. The OECD confirms that foreign firms account for over half of Poland's total exports through their direct operations and supply chains. Think about that. Poland became so critical to global production networks that multinational corporations can't extract themselves even if they wanted to. Poland's 2024 goods exports hit $383 billion. Imports, $382 billion. Balanced trade. No dangerous current account deficit. No dependence on foreign lending to stay afloat. This wasn't passive. This was Poland offering competitive labor costs, strategic geography, EU market access, and political stability, then negotiating from a position of strength. Western executives thought they were exploiting cheap Eastern labor. They were actually building Poland's industrial base. The sector breakdown tells the story. Automotive, electronics, machinery, chemicals, high-value goods requiring skilled workers and integrated supply chains. Not textiles, not raw materials. Poland climbed the value chain faster than any analyst predicted. And the shift continues. As Western Europe debates four-day workweeks and shortened hours, Polish factories operate at full capacity, exporting goods that keep the EU economy alive. The balance of power is shifting. Poland isn't dependent on Europe. Europe is dependent on Poland. The German economic miracle is over. The Polish one is just beginning. Germany takes 27.2% of Polish exports, the largest share of any country. On paper, that looks like dependency. In reality, it's leverage. Here's why. Germany is deindustrializing. Energy costs have spiked since Berlin cut ties with Russian gas. Manufacturing competitiveness is collapsing. The auto sector, Germany's pride, is hemorrhaging market share to Chinese EVs and struggling with the transition away from combustion engines. And where does Germany turn when its own factories can't deliver? Poland. Polish plants produce components, vehicles, and equipment that German brands slap their logos on. The supply chains are so intertwined that a disruption in Poland would cripple German exports within weeks. Germany isn't buying from Poland out of charity. It's buying because it has no choice. Think about the reversal. 20 years ago, Poland needed access to German capital and markets to survive. Today, Germany needs Polish manufacturing capacity to stay relevant. Poland recognized this years ago. While Germany's political class debated climate targets and coalition compromises, Polish policymakers focused on industrial capacity. Build the factories, train the workers, integrate into supply chains so deeply that extraction becomes impossible. Now Germany is locked in. Its largest economy in Europe relies on a neighbor it once dismissed as irrelevant. The dependency runs one direction, and it's not the direction Berlin wants to admit. The broader EU follows the same pattern. France's industrial output is stagnant. Italy's manufacturing is in long-term decline. The UK severed itself from the bloc entirely. Meanwhile, Poland's industrial engine runs at full throttle, exporting goods that keep the EU's trade balance from total collapse. This is strategic positioning at its finest. Poland doesn't lecture Europe about values or governance. It simply makes itself indispensable. And when you're indispensable, you hold the power. Germany thought it was integrating Poland into its sphere of influence. Instead, Poland integrated Germany into its growth strategy. While others talk, Poland builds. Economic strength means nothing without security. Poland understands this better than any nation in Europe. It faces an existential threat from the East, Russia, and a continent full of allies who talk about solidarity but hesitate when action is required. So Poland took matters into its own hands. Military spending is surging. Poland is investing in advanced defense systems, tank battalions, and air defense networks at a pace that makes Germany and France look complacent. While Western Europe debates budget constraints, Poland treats defense as the foundation of its future prosperity. Here's the calculation. A strong economy funds a strong military. A strong military protects the economy from external threats. The two reinforce each other. Poland learned this lesson from history, and it's not repeating the mistakes of the past. Energy independence is the other pillar. Poland is aggressively building LNG terminals, diversifying away from Russian gas, and investing in nuclear power. Energy security is economic security. Every zloty spent on domestic energy infrastructure is a zloty that doesn't flow to Moscow. This isn't just about defense, it's about sovereignty. Poland refuses to be held hostage by external powers, whether that's Russia cutting gas supplies or Germany dictating terms through economic coercion. The contrast with Western Europe is stark. Germany shuttered its nuclear plants and became dependent on Russian energy, only to panic when geopolitics shifted. France talks about strategic autonomy but lacks the industrial base to execute it. Britain, no longer even part of the conversation. Poland, meanwhile, is building the infrastructure to stand alone if necessary. It doesn't want to stand alone, it wants strong alliances. But it's not gambling its future on other nations' goodwill. This approach resonates with the Polish people. They remember occupation, they remember betrayal. They know that economic power without military strength is just wealth waiting to be taken. And here's the kicker. Poland's defense investments aren't a drag on the economy. They're a stimulus. Domestic defense manufacturing creates jobs, builds technical expertise, and integrates into the broader industrial base. The tanks and missiles Poland buys today become the skilled workers and factories that export tomorrow. Fortress Poland isn't a metaphor, it's a deliberate strategy to ensure that no external force, not Russia, not Germany, not Brussels, can dictate Poland's future. This is not a forecast, this is a trajectory. Look at the scoreboard. GDP per capita at 81% of the EU average and rising. Unemployment at 3.1%, essentially full employment. Exports balanced, industrial capacity expanding, FDI still pouring in. The European Commission projects 3.5% GDP growth for Poland in 2026, while the EU average limps along at half that pace. Poland's rise isn't a fluke or a temporary boom. It's the result of 2 decades of strategic decisions executed with discipline. Join the EU, attract investment, build supply chains, upgrade infrastructure, train workers, secure energy, strengthen defense. Every step was calculated. Every advantage was leveraged. While Western Europe rested on past glories, Poland was hungry. And hunger drives ambition. The challenges ahead are real. Demographics are tightening. Poland's birth rate is low and emigration has pulled talent westward. Housing costs in major cities are rising. Productivity still lags behind Western European levels in some sectors. But here's the thing. These are the challenges of success, not failure. Poland's problems are how to manage growth, not how to reverse decline. That puts it in a fundamentally different position than Germany, France, or the UK. And Poland has faced worse. It rebuilt from communism. It navigated EU integration while maintaining sovereignty. It turned geographic vulnerability into strategic advantage. The demographic challenge, it's the next obstacle for the Polish spirit to overcome, not a terminal diagnosis. The story isn't over, it's accelerating. Poland is on track to surpass Spain and Italy in GDP per capita within a decade. It's becoming the industrial heart of Europe, while Berlin and Paris fade into geopolitical irrelevance. If you want to see how this story unfolds, and why the next chapter is even more dramatic, subscribe to Economics Edge, because Poland's greatest victories are still ahead.